My name is Jordan Bullard, and I am a senior in the BUX program. I've been seeking Jesus since ever I can remember. It started when I was younger. My parents met when they were in youth group together way back in the 90s or something like that. And they raised me going to church and different things like that. But when I was about 7, they got a divorce, which really threw a wrench in the situation. And I remember from that point, we started church hopping with my mom, and then my dad stopped going to church for a little bit. So the relationship component of Christianity for me just wasn't really there because I was never plugged in anywhere. It was hard for me to get a grasp on what a community of Christ followers meant and how we can push each other. And so it wasn't until I was about a sophomore in high school that I moved out to the Napanee area and started going to Napanee Missionary Church. And there I really felt this family atmosphere of welcoming people who really want to not only know who I am, but want me to know who Christ is. So through that journey of sophomore year, junior year, and senior year, I really got plugged into the church. I started to really pursue a personal relationship with Jesus and started to learn who he was to me and who he was calling me to be. But part of life is the downs, not just the ups. And so when I graduated high school, there were a number of things that were thrown at me. I had just gotten out of a relationship that was for about 2 years. I was kicked out of my dad's house, and there was just a couple of different things going on, let alone graduating high school and not really knowing what I was supposed to do. So at that moment, I felt like God had kind of stepped away from me. And so I was like, all right, I'll step away from you. And so I started going down a road of trying to fill that hole, that void, with things that were from the world. So whether it was partying or drinking or meaningless surface level relationships, whatever it was, I was trying to fill that void over and over and over. And it just led to more emptiness, more emptiness, more emptiness. But then God didn't stop in his pursuit of me. He continued after me, and time after time of showing up to church, of having people reach out to me, I started to see that God was still pursuing me, that he hadn't given up on me, and that he was enduring through this process of trying to figure out what life was supposed to be. So then I started to open my Bible. I started to read. I started to get in the Word. I started to pray more. I started to practice more spiritual disciplines. And one of the key verses for me was Matthew 10:39, and it says this. It says, "Whoever finds their life will lose it, and whoever loses their life for my sake will find it." And I think one of the key moments was I was a camp counselor at a summer camp, and I was leading these kids, and I was trying to show them what a person pursuing Christ was supposed to look like and helping them on their own journey, but I wasn't even sure where I was at. So I sat on this hill and I looked out at the water and the waves crashing over the rocks and all these different really cliche things, but then I really just felt in my heart like I need to lose my life for Christ. So in that moment I just prayed very passionately that I would lose my life for Christ. So then from that moment forward, I started to step into ministerial internships and started going to school for ministry leadership and all these things that I never thought I would do. But it just, time after time, God showed up and showed me the way. And I'm so grateful for him. And I can't wait to continue pursuing that, continue to pursue what it means to lose my life for Christ and how I can deny myself and pick up my cross and help others into that same journey. I think one of the most important things in my journey was when I started to just open up the Word, when I started to actually participate in the ways that God was trying to draw near to me so I could draw near to him, I felt my life start to turn around. I felt those times where I would wake up in the morning and really not want to go do what I was supposed to do or go to work or be in the relationships that I was supposed to be in. It started to change. It started to be more of an opportunity. It started to show more of who God was in people and in things and in creation. So I started to have a greater perspective of what life was supposed to be and what it could be. I remember there was one specific time where it was a Saturday morning, and usually I would spend my mornings just sleeping in as long as I possibly could, doing as little as possible, trying to hang out with friends or do something like that. But instead I just chose to open the Word and journal. And I've never been a huge journal person, but I remember just walking through like scripture and reading part of a book and journaling my thoughts, what I felt like God was trying to say to me. And then it was just like illumination. It was just like God was pouring His Spirit out over me so I could see what He was trying to lead me into. And so that was a really awesome opportunity to go from this season of shadow, the season of darkness, and then really step into the light and be a child of the light, like it talks about in John 13. It just was an awesome opportunity for me to live that out and for God to do that in me and through me. One of my favorite stories from Scripture is the Exodus, when God heard the cry of His people and took them out of slavery and led them into the promised land. That was a bumpy journey, but I really saw myself in that. I saw God take me from this place of slavery to the world of darkness to the things that I couldn't fill the void with. And He took me out and He led me into the promised land of His Spirit, His goodness, His peace, His patience. He led me into the place that I could live with Him and seated up in the heavenly place next to Him. So as He did that for me, as He took me out of slavery and led me into the promised land, He can do that for you. No matter what you're a slave to or how deep you think you are, He hears your cry and He can lead you into your promised land.